Here.
So let us know if you have any issues.
Yeah.
Here.
We're gonna get there, promise. Thank you, guys.
All right. Can I have a motion to dispense the reading and approval of minutes? All right. Moved by Counselor Harden, second by Counselor Sims. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's 4-0. There's no old business, so we'll move to new business. 4/11/23, request permission to remove 2 pine trees located in the city right-of-way at 308 Devon Drive coming from Cale Smith.
Brian, yeah, so the request is to build a house on this lot at 308 Devon. Is Jim here? Are you Jim? All right, so Jim's the owner, and the request is to take down 2 pine trees that are in the right-of-way so he can access the lot.
And right in between them is a huge sewer manhole cover. And so just to even have it as a construction site, I can't drive my dump trucks and cement trucks over the manhole cover, so I've got to get them on either side.
Are you the contractor?
I'm the owner of the property, yeah. Dallas Boat is my builder, he's the contractor. So there's the, as you can see, there's a 9-foot, 9-foot, 9-inch tree, a big manhole cover, and then the 36-inch pine tree. As you can see, it covers the full entrance, literally up to 60 feet. There's nowhere to get a truck through, in or out with both trees. Then they're both old pines, so once we drive, if we did try to straddle the manhole cover, we're gonna be running over roots that are 60, 70, 80 years old. By the time we finish, they're gonna be dead, because there's no way to get far enough away from either one of them to not kill them.
All right.
Jim, can I get you to sign it?
So, Cale, just to clarify, so
That's all I need.
property owner is requesting and paying for the removal if approved. Okay.
I'll make a motion to request permission to remove those trees.
Motion by Counselor Nelms.
That would include the
Indemnification agreement.
agreement. Second.
All right, motion by Counselor Nelms, second by Counselor Sims. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 4-0. Is that right, John? You and I on that?
Yes.
All right, 4-0. So this will go to full council next week, Monday, or
On the
not,
27th.
2 weeks, sorry, yep. Monday at 6 p.m. That's it for now.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you. 5/11/23, request permission to work in the right-of-way to install an accessible parking space at Urology Centers in Alabama. Andy Olds and Cale Smith.
Hey. Yeah, so this is an old survey that Andy provided that shows that these parking spaces along Old Montgomery Highway are in the right-of-way. I think they only serve really the Urology Center of Alabama, but they are in the right-of-way, and he wants to take up 2 of them and make that an accessible parking space in the right-of-way. There you go.
There it is.
Yeah, okay.
So what's there now? Nothing?
So
A bunch of parking spaces.
There are 2 parking
parking
spaces there now. The site has an excess of parking spaces, so after we take away 1 space, we'll still have more than we need per zoning. The building, it does have some accessible spaces here that serve the top floor, but there's no elevator in the building. So right now, there's no accessible parking space or accessible route into the lower floor of the building. And the owner would like to, or the tenant would like to build out a CT scan suite in the lower floor.
Makes sense.
So it will provide one accessible space for the lower portion of the building, essentially.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to agree to do that for pending
indemnification agreement. All right, motion by Counselor Harden,
Second?
second by Counselor Nelms.
Okay, just let.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's 4-0. Bo, so again, that'll go to full council in 2 weeks on the 27th at 6. Last item is 06-11-23, request for consideration to permit front yard retaining walls in the right-of-way at 3019 Firefighter Lane. Jason Hale, Willow Holmes, and Wyatt Pugh. Oh, we've already done it.
So, I'll go ahead. 2 weeks ago, Willow Homes was seeking a CO for this house. And one of the conditions for CO was that they turn in a final survey that shows lot coverage and the location of these front walls. Brian, if we'll go to the second page, it turns out that that wall extended into the right of way. And,
How did that happen?
Well, truthfully, yeah, you know, I've been building here for 12 years and it's actually never come up, because we normally don't have to have a final survey, to be honest with you. So, you know, it's still actually behind all the other ones on the street. And so I think the truth is, it was never on our radar to check the right-of-way. You know, because you typically build landscaping features and everything else visually on the street is actually slightly in front of it. There's other stairs or retaining walls and all. And so, that it just happens to be that right-of-way is further up in the yard than you would visually think it is. And there were no stakes at the time. And really, Wyatt was the first one that brought it to my attention. Actually, I've never had to come in here for this on a retaining wall. So really, it's hat in hand saying, didn't know it was an issue when we built it, and I can show you the other properties on the street. They all have stuff that comes down further to the street than even this wall does. This one actually is far enough back where you could do a sidewalk or something if you wanted to. But there's retaining wall next to us. It's a little further closer to the street. There's stairs at every property that go all the way to the street. And then down at Members Title, there's a retaining wall that goes all the way to the street. So, I think visually you just don't pick up on it. And like I said, it's not a normal process to have to go through a final survey to get a CO. That's not something we typically have to do. So you wouldn't, you know, we did permit the wall. We did have it inspected. We did through all, you know, we went through all the permitting process and all. And it just never got picked up that it was in front of the city right away.
Go ahead, Julie. You can
Okay,
ask.
so is that fence there? Is that a fence?
It's a handrail.
It's a,
Julie, that's actually, because there's a more than 30-inch drop between
Uh-huh.
grade here,
Uh-huh.
the building code requires that there be
Okay.
a guard there because there's a walking surface atop this.
Okay.
If there were, say, hedge bushes that extended 3 feet back from that,
Okay.
then that would not be considered a walking surface and no
Okay.
guard would be required.
Thank
But
you.
because of that,
we
Thank
deal
you.
with that sometimes. So no front fences, but you do have to have a guardrail.
Okay.
And Wyatt, this does not qualify as a front yard fence?
Yeah, I'm a little confused
Or it
on that.
does?
no, it does not, because the building code requires a guard in this
Okay,
location.
but what about the wall itself?
So the retaining wall ordinance requires that you get a building permit when there is a retaining wall that's taller than 3 feet in a front yard. Now, there's no limit to the height of a retaining wall in the front yard. But once it gets beyond 3 feet, then there is a permit that's required. Now, the building code requires that when the retaining wall is taller than 4 feet, that an engineered drawing must be submitted for that retaining wall. And that was my main concern here, was because this wall is so much taller than anything else on the street. It's a pretty substantial wall here that was built. I was hoping that they had some engineering on it. Well, fortunately, Jason turned in some good engineering. The engineering had a note on there that said the walls should be placed according to where they're shown on the landscape plan. So no landscape plan was submitted when the house was permitted. And this front wall was not shown on the house plans. But as soon as we started getting into the permit process, they did submit a landscape plan to me. The landscape plan showed the retaining walls, but right behind the front property line. So it was our assumption that would be okay. And in December, I did notify Jason that before a CO would be issued, I would just need a final survey that confirmed that. Sort of like when you issue a permit for a house, you get a foundation survey to confirm that it is where it was permitted to be.
He mentioned that it is further back than most of them anyway, and that if we needed to do any city work as far as the sidewalk or anything like that, we could still do that with that wall there.
You're 5'6" from the back of curb
Is that what
face
it is?
wall, and you're clear enough for a sidewalk.
Okay.
I didn't-
Yeah, and I mean, I've brought pictures of all the others on the street. They go right up to the street,
Uh-huh.
which is, I think, why it probably didn't catch our radar that was in the right of way.
Is
I
the,
mean, there's ones that
Right.
you could not do a sidewalk.
Right.
all
and
around
it- and I don't know I don't remember the building history of most of the properties on the street, but are they all relatively new, the ones that he's referencing, or?
There's one right here, there's a little short retaining wall in the front, and I believe it's in the right of way too. It's a little bit of a different situation. I can understand why no inspector may have ever raised a red flag about it. It's only 30 inches tall. It wouldn't have required a permit. It wouldn't have required any special engineering. It's more of a landscaping feature, really. Even though it is, a retaining wall. It just was never brought to my attention. But yes, there is, and it is in the right of way, I do believe. I don't have a survey for it, but based on what I see here, it looks like it might be. I'm not sure when it was built. Did you build that house? or is it-
Mhm.
Okay.
It's probably, this wall's actually a year and a half old.
The other one or this one?
This one.
This one.
Yeah.
We put the plans, I'm a landscape architect, we put the plans together, and obviously in paper, we had it a foot behind the wall, a foot behind the property line. I think what Jason and I figured out was either the stakes that were out there were not the property line, or they did not have stakes. Whatever we saw out there when the subs put it in, it was not correct. And I think everybody assumed it was, including us, because it was in line with all the other walls. And it's 5.5, 6 feet off the back of curb.
Yeah, I remember when the permit was first issued, Scott Cook went by there and he said, well, there are stakes out there, and this thing's behind
That's
the
correct.
stakes.
We made sure of that, yeah.
But the stakes were
We had no
obviously not
intention of
the
building in
property
the
line.
right of way. It's clearly a mistake there. We just,
Yeah. Well,
Didn't know
it
until
required deep footing, so there was a lot of
Yeah.
excavation out there. Because we ended up permitting it, to your point, we permitted
Yeah.
it separately because you said, hey, this is gonna end up being taller, we got plans later. And so we permitted the wall separately, at that time.
I'll make a motion to consider the request for the front yard retaining wall.
Is it pertinent to the issue at hand?
You have a motion, you can't
Yeah.
take any questions
Yeah.
until you have a second.
I thought it was
By parliamentary procedure.
discussion.
Well,
You can't, you have a motion on the
Counselor-
table, you're not
Counselor
supposed
Nelms
to take
made a
questions
motion.
until you have a second. Isn't that right, Walter?
That's correct.
Nobody looked at it. That's totally against everything we've done.
Second your motion with
Everything
the
I've done.
proper indemnification agreement.
okay, motion by Counselor Nelms, second by Counselor Sims. All in favor?
Sugar Lane, what's
I'm curious, what's your concern?
The concern was, it was approached, it was talked about back when it was being done, okay? I'm not gonna say the names who was involved in this. But that wall now, the people next door to that is looking at a wall that's directing water all toward their yard. There's a fence now, it looks like a condo, if you really wanna know the truth. There's no place in Homewood that there's a wall that close. You can't put shrubs on the street that close as a wall, we discussed that on Hollywood Boulevard.
I disagree with you.
100% in.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
That's
we-
okay.
I
we
did
don't-
design
I
it,
just,
so
Chris, I just wanted to
would
know
have the
what
right
your
to.
You know what I'm
concerns
saying?
were. But we can talk about that later.
Particularly on Hollywood Boulevard, we removed the fence
Okay.
that's for children, and then we allowed that fence.
Yeah.
And the people who are living next door to these people they're looking at a wall all the way to the street, from their side to the street.
So
There's
there,
photos-
Well,
I will say, so we've had a motion and a second, we can vote on it, it will still go to full council.
Okay.
If there's,
But if it goes to
Yeah,
there's
council,
neighbors that are
will it be
concerned,
up
they
for
can come and
discussion
speak at
full
that point
council
too.
if that happens?
if
They
it's
pass it?
impacting them,
Will it be able to?
Or the-
will
A
we
neighbor
be able to
can come
discuss
and-
it at the
It-
council
no,
meeting
it
if that happens?
won't be a public
It won't
hearing.
It's not a public
Okay,
hearing.
so we won't, so it's over with right now.
yeah, I mean, they have not come before us.
See, because this was all done without permission. And we've had walls taken down.
well, it
We've
sounds
had
like it
little
was,
walls
it
taken
sounds
down.
like it was permitted. It was-
Not a wall like that was not permitted.
That's not what I heard, so, yeah.
Hearsay.
So, what I heard was it was permitted at some point, before the CO would be issued, it would need to be double checked. It was double checked, and that's kind of where we are right now. So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that's 4-0 to go out to council for the 27th, so two weeks from tonight at 6 o'clock.
Wow, you need-
And with that, we stand adjourned.